I never had much of a relationship with owls until about a year after I lost my mom and her sister, my aunt. I was very close to my aunt. So close, oftentimes I would mistakenly call her mom, and she was like, "It's okay." She was very close to my mother, and she talked so much. She was the life of the party everywhere she went. Where, in contrast, my mother, she was silent all the time. So they made quite the pair. But, anyways, about a year after I lost both my mom and her sister, I found myself living with my brother in a fourplex. And I had gotten into the rhythm of taking my dogs for a walk every evening. There was an apartment village right next to our fourplex area. It was divided by a fence, and there was a road where you could drive from our area to the apartment village next door. The thing that I liked about the apartments was there was a dry creek bed and a great little place where I could walk my dog, and they had doggy bags and whatnot. So I would go there every night. And I remember it must have been October or November of 2013 because I remember suddenly walking my dogs at the normal time, but the sun was gone. It was dark, and I wasn't used to that. Luckily, I had my boyfriend with me, so when we were walking towards the creek area, I found myself crossing a bridge. And right when I was crossing that bridge, something strange happened. I felt the need to whistle. I only knew one whistle. I'm not a good whistler. And that whistle was the one I used to use to call my cat, who had long been passed. But, anyways, when I made the whistle, suddenly I heard above me the sound of horses whinnying. I was shocked. I couldn't believe my ears. So I remember looking at my boyfriend to see if he was messing with me, see if his mouth was moving, but it wasn't. And then just then I noticed an owl flew out from the trees that were above me and flew to this tree that was towards the fence right in front of me. And it had a light that was shining up on the tree. And this owl was just sitting right there on that tree, just staring back at us. I just remember thinking, "Oh my goodness." I was in awe and feeling like the whistle that I had made was connected to this moment in time. In fact, I felt that so strongly, I claimed the moment in a sense, and when my boyfriend tried to whistle to the owl, I stopped him like, "No, no. This is between me and the owl." But anyways, the next day when we came to walk the dogs, once again, the owl was there. But this time it had two little juveniles with it. So I called out to it, and it ended up the larger one flew away. And that was the last time I'd seen that larger owl. But after that, I now had two little owlets that I was essentially communicating with. So basically, every day I would go over to the creek and I would call to the owls, and they would fly to me. They would come to a branch that was nearby. I mean, they wouldn't like land on me, but they would come and let me know that they had heard my call and that they were answering. And it didn't matter where in the creek these owlets were; they would show up one right after the other. And we got so comfortable with each other. Oh my goodness! Did you just see that? Scared me. I'm keeping that in the video. But anyways, maybe hold on one second. I should probably help this little bird because it seems to be stuck behind my little ice chest right here. Anyways, back to the story. I think there might be a nest right here by my ice chest because I can hear some peeping. So I'll look into that later. But right now, I just want to finish the story. So I remember one time I had gone to the creek just like I normally did with my dog, and I called out to the owls. And this time, one of the owls actually landed on a branch that was fairly low. It was probably just about a foot or two above my head, but it was in front of me so I could see it. And so I'm just standing there in awe looking at this beautiful little owlet. And suddenly, the second one flies right by the first one and lands right next to it. And I was just like, oh my goodness, they're both so close to me. And then right after that, the first one actually jumps to the earth and actually just stands there, maybe 2 or 3 feet right in front of me and my dog, who was not leashed, by the way. But yet the dog seemed to understand the reverence of the moment and just stood there as well, didn't try to attack. I was amazed. And then suddenly, the second owl did the same thing. It jumped off of that branch and landed right next to that owl. And then, as if that wasn't magical enough, the first owl actually took its wing and covered the second owl. I was like, oh my goodness, these aren't just owls. These are my ancestors, my mom and my aunt, because they started showing up, like a year after my mom had passed, and they just stayed with me for like a whole other year. It was awesome. Um, it was so common for this to happen that I actually started telling my coworkers about it, and one of the nurses that I worked with wanted to come check it out. So I invited her. She came, and as soon as we walked into the other side of the fence where the apartments were, I called out to the owls, and sure enough, they showed up just like clockwork. She was amazed. She was in absolute awe. And as we were walking back to the fence, one of them even flew over our head to basically walk us to the fence line. And I just thought that was so amazing. My girlfriend, she actually didn't get to see the owl that was flying right at the fence line because she was looking at me at the time, and it was flying silently overhead. So by the time I pointed it out, she looked the wrong direction and it was gone. So, but still, she got to experience the owls, and so that was nice. In fact, like about, I want to say it was a year later or so, that same girlfriend of mine actually threw a birthday party for me. It was just a small gathering with family and friends, and we were having cake and whatnot on her back patio. And I had gone inside and I was going to grab something. I don't remember what, but just then my girlfriend, she rushes inside the house and she's like, Tiffany, Tiffany, you have to come outside and see what's happening. And I was like, what? So I come outside, and the whole creek that was behind her house was filled with the chorus of what sounded like 100 owls. It was amazing. She was like, I've lived here for I don't know how many years and I've never heard that before. She goes like, they're doing it for you, Tiffany. And I couldn't help but smile and feel like I was being seen by both the physical and the spiritual world on my birthday. But anyways, I remember when I had to move out of my brother's house. I was so sad. I felt like I was never going to see my little owls again. I was moving out of the county, and I was going to be moving to a house that was actually right on the edge of Travis County and the next county, and I just felt like I was never going to see him again. So when I was making my last trip out of the fourplex, and I was moving into a bigger house, I remember I was driving down right at the county line, and I was in a black Challenger, and suddenly I could see a white bird rise out of the ditch that was to the right of my vehicle. It was an owl, and it stayed probably, at window height. And I slowed down my driving so that I could keep pace with this owl. And me and this owl were just going, just slowly driving down the road. And she followed me until I had to actually take a left. But to me, it just felt like the owls were saying to me, we're still with you. Even though you may not see us, we're still with you. So I just thought that was really awesome. The new place that I moved didn't have any kind of creek or area where there were owls. So it was a long time again before I could experience the owls. But even to this day, when I go camping and whatnot, I will always call for the owls, and they do return their calls back. It's an amazing experience. In fact, this one last time I was camping with some of my shamanic friends, and I had gotten there really late. So I actually, my tent was uh, pitched like across the street from where they were. But, anyways, I was I was in my tent calling out to the owls when suddenly I could hear the owls getting closer and closer and closer. And they got so close and they were so loud that I actually stopped because I was afraid they were going to try to land on the top of my tent. I mean, that's how powerful they sounded. But they've never left me. They're always with me, even to this day. Sometimes I call to them here from my porch and they respond. So, anyways, I just wanted to share that story with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.